Hey everyone! Today we're going to delve deep into the world of Scandinavian interior design. We're going to analyze exactly how the Scandinavians managed to consistently create beautiful, inviting, bright interiors, and we're also going to look at how to recreate the same style in our own homes. So I think it's safe to say that Scandinavian interior design is one of the most popular interior design styles in the world. Scandinavian interior design is generally associated with its clean, bright, minimalistic yet cozy look. I know that personally I was shopping at IKEA long before I even understood the concept of a Scandinavian interior design style. I was always attracted to the showrooms and to the catalogs, and I couldn't quite pinpoint why that was, but I kept going back to it over and over, like I think many of us do. Anyways, this isn't a video about me or about IKEA. The reason I bring up IKEA is because I truly believe that IKEA is the reason Scandinavian interior design was brought to the masses. And not only the design in itself, but the concept behind Scandinavian interior design. Now, what is that? The Scandinavians have a very socially inclusive culture. So the way that this translates to the design world is that there is this belief that everyone should be able to afford beautiful and functional items in their home. So in a nutshell, what is Scandinavian interior design? Well, I think we can break it down to three core concepts: warmth, simplicity, and inspiration from nature. It's not just the physical warmth, but it's also psychological warmth. Having a warm home has been a really important part of Scandinavian lives for hundreds of years. Obviously, they have very cold winters, and so the home provided a safe haven from the very extreme weather conditions. Fireplaces and wood-burning stoves are great elements to have in your home to create physical warmth. If you don't have a fireplace, you can create well-being by using warm lighting, for example. So look at the temperature of your lights, make sure that they're warm lights and not bright white neon lights. And also think about lighting candles and dimming your lights down to create a more inviting and soft atmosphere. Besides adjusting your lighting, you can also wear thick woolen socks, place rugs on the floor, use a lot of soft furnishings so that people feel comfortable and a sense of well-being and warmth in your home. Simplicity comes from the fact that Nordic design roots come from the need to design items that would perform the required tasks with the limited raw resources that they had available to them. Often in old times, people weren't able to travel far from their little village or town because of the weather conditions, so they had to make do with what they had. And this has kind of translated down through the years into their design. Lastly, inspiration from nature. If you've ever seen any photos of Scandinavia, or if you've been there, you'll know that it has some of the most beautiful scenery in the world. Scandinavians have been long inspired by their surroundings and have always preferred to use materials that were readily available to them. Let's look at 12 ways that you can also create the Scandinavian look in your own home. The first way is mixing old and new. I think it's really important to point out that Scandinavians don't add objects to their homes as status symbols. So regardless of the price or the way an item was made, any product that enters the Scandinavian home is meant to add emotional comfort, and it's meant to enrich one's life. So because Scandinavians tend to acquire objects based on this principle, it's not unusual for there to be a mix of old and new items in Scandinavian interiors. Vintage items are often nostalgic, and nostalgia is often linked to the concept of hygge. I hope I'm saying that right. Hygge, 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 hygge. Hygge. Hygge is essentially the Danish philosophy of togetherness, comfort, and well-being. And of course, there's no better place to experience this than in your own home. Home is definitely the Hygge headquarters, but you don't have to be at home to feel hygge. A restaurant can feel hygge, a bookstore can feel hygge, even work can feel hygge if you have it set up properly. But it's definitely important to mention that Hygge is a big part of getting the feeling right in Scandinavian interior design. If you're interested in learning more about Hygge, there's a really good book on it that I recently read. It's called The Little Book of Hygge, and it's by Meik Wiking. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I'll leave a link in the description. I definitely recommend picking it up if you are interested in how to create coziness in your life. There are some quick ways to create Hygge in the home. I'll just quickly go over them. Just push your clutter aside, stack it up somewhere, create some clear space in front of you, light some candles or dim the lights, turn off the overhead lights, put some soft music on, or maybe even put your favorite movie on the TV at low volume in the background. Bake some cookies or maybe light a scented candle, fluff your pillows, put some woolen socks on, prepare a hot drink like mulled wine or coffee or tea, and invite some friends over. Next is natural light. Now, the Scandinavians go from one extreme to the other on the light spectrum. They go from having very few hours of natural daylight in the winter to having 20 hours of sunlight in the summer. So they really do go from one extreme to the other. So naturally, Scandinavian house designs try to maximize the amount of natural light in their homes. So really, really big windows are often seen. Skylights are really popular. And of course, painting your walls bright white is really going to help bounce all that light around your room and create even more brightness. The Scandinavians do like to hang drapes on their windows, but they're very careful to hang them correctly so as not to block the light from their roofs. I have a video about how to hang curtains. If you're interested, I would recommend checking it out. In terms of color palettes, the most popular Scandinavian color palette by far is black and white with natural accents. But you will also find other colors such as gray, off-white, pale wood tones, soft pinks, sage green, taupes, tan, mustard, hunter green, navy blue, and metallic accents. White is really truly the favorite. It's a beautiful and elegant backdrop for all the natural materials that are often found in Scandinavian homes. Artwork. Artwork in Scandinavian interiors generally tends to be more on the subdued side. This also allows them to go fairly large scale with their artwork because it's not really busy. The wall art normally consists of abstract art, drawings, sometimes moody landscape photography, sometimes the odd classical oil portrait or textural painting will appear. The frames tend to be quite minimal, quite thin, black or white or blonde wood, and from time to time you will see big gold ornate frames, but they tend to pair them with very, very minimal backdrops. Sculptural art is generally on the minimal side as well. Also, Scandinavians don't tend to have many knickknacks in their home. So if you are going for a clean Scandinavian look, I would recommend clearing out all the knickknacks and only keeping your absolute favorites. Ceramics and glass vessels are also very popular in Scandinavian interior design. They are not only beautiful, but they're also functional. Scandinavian rooms and interiors are almost always very light and airy feeling. First of all, furniture is often elevated off the ground. This allows for light to circulate better through the room. Scandinavian furniture also often features very lightweight frames. There's lots of breathing space between the different pieces of furniture. The walls are almost always white, which we've already mentioned. This reflects more light. And sometimes the use of paper lampshades increases that sense of airiness within spaces. If you look at Scandinavian rooms, one of the primary ways that they introduce warmth and texture is through the use of textiles. Adding throw blankets and pillows and things like that will really help to soften any hard edges of your furniture. Natural fabrics are a preference among Scandinavians. Wool, linen, cotton, things like that. Silk and satin is not often seen, although velvet is used quite a bit, at least right now it is. One thing to note is that Scandinavians actually don't shy away from using animal hides in their decor. You don't have to, of course, you can use faux, but they like to use things like sheepskins and, cow hides and any animal pelts draped over the back of chairs or used as rugs next to the bed or on their sofas. But yeah, again, you don't have to use real. You can definitely go the faux route and it'll give the exact same effect. Curtains in Scandinavian settings typically tend to be solid and they're hung from ceiling to floor. So let's talk about Scandinavian floors. The number one flooring choice in Scandinavian homes is the hardwood floor. Scandinavians do not use carpet. This does not mean, of course, that you can't decorate Scandinavian style if you have carpet. Of course you can, but it's just to say that the Scandis just don't use carpet. They generally use pale hardwood floors, and then they like to soften with rugs, typically in neutral colors. The floors tend to be light colored woods. If they can't use hardwood, they use laminate, and sometimes the floorboards are also painted in white to reflect even more light. Another aspect of the flooring that is good to mention and to notice is that the Scandinavians tend to like to continue the same flooring throughout the whole home. The exceptions are, of course, in the bathroom, where they will usually use tile and sometimes vinyl for the slightly cheaper option. The main reason why Scandinavians like to have a clutter-free space is because it allows for more light to flow through the room. Another thing I've noticed about Scandinavian interiors is that there is always very good cable management. I can tell you from personal experience from being married to a Swede that cable management is important. And it is. Untidy cables make your space look more cluttered and messy. So if you can, try and just tuck them away out of sight. That will really do wonders for your space. And it's a very low effort, very low cost change that you can make to your space to make it look tidier. The use of wood is a huge element in Scandinavian interior design. Their floors are wood, their furniture is wood, their homes are wood, and they tend to mix it a lot. The preferred wood tone for Scandinavian interiors is typically light toned wood. Birch, pine, or spruce are quite popular. Wood painted white is also popular. Plants. When are plants not on a list? Let's be real, plants are always on the list. Scandinavians truly do love nature, and they try to bring it indoors whenever they can. One thing to note about the way Scandis use plants indoors is that they don't overdo it. Typically they never have like more than 4 or 5 per room. So if you want to go full on jungle, totally don't blame you. I love that look, but it's not really a Scandinavian way of decorating. Pampas grass is also a Scandinavian decor favorite, so if you can get your hands on some of that, I recommend doing so. Those lucky enough to live in the big cities often will get to live in big older buildings that are at least a couple of 100 years old. Most of these buildings have been very well preserved. These buildings often feature very elaborate moldings, the old-fashioned radiators under the windows, very, very high ceilings, trim around the doors. It's a very particular look. When there are these ornate moldings, they're literally always painted white. The wall and the ceiling color can sometimes be painted an ever so slightly darker shade of white from the moldings. So now that we've analyzed all the different aspects of Scandinavian interiors, how can we non-Scandinavians bring that look into our own homes? So there are a few ways. The first thing I would suggest is bring as much light and warmth as you can into your home. So the first tip is paint your walls bright white. This is the easiest and first step to a true Scandi look. The second step is to declutter. Strip everything back and be very, very careful about what you reintroduce. Be really selective. Step 3 is to remove any very bright, very highly saturated colors. You can use color in your space, of course, but I would recommend removing it all first and then using a lot of restraint when you reintroduce color back into your space. To save on art, you can use your own photos. You can quite cheaply have your own photos enlarged to poster size. Buy cheap frames at IKEA and you can create your own art. You can paint your own art. There are a million DIYs out there on how to create abstract art. Often all it takes is a canvas, a paintbrush, and a tube of paint, and you can make art that you could easily see being sold for hundreds of dollars. Let me know if you're interested and I can do a video on how to create abstract art for cheap. Another tip is to, of course, assess your lighting. Make sure you don't have any harsh lighting. Make sure your light bulbs are potentially dimmable, that you've got warm lighting, you've got candles. assess your curtains, make sure your curtains are looking good, check my video on that. And lastly, check and see if in your home there are any areas where you can layer in some throw pillows or blankets or fur pelts or anything like that. I really hope you enjoyed this video and that you found it useful. Thank you so much for leaving me comments in my videos and for showing your support. It means so much to me, and it's the reason why I keep making videos. I know I don't have that many yet, but I am reading all your comments, and when you have requests, I'm writing them down, and I'm gonna try and make all the videos that you're requesting. I hope you have a great day and that you can try and inject some Scandi into your home after having watched this. Bye!